The price of 2 minutes. The sunshine that October morning was the kind that made you believe in second chances. James Whitmore had picked up his daughters at 9 a.m. sharp, right on schedule, determined to make this weekend count. After 8 months of bitter divorce proceedings, supervised visitations, and court-mandated therapy sessions, he finally had unsupervised weekend custody. This was his chance to prove he could be the father Sophia and Grace deserved. "Daddy, are we really going to the American Girl store?" 6-year-old Grace asked for the 10th time, her blue eyes wide with hope. "We really are, Princess," James confirmed, adjusting his rearview mirror to see both daughters in the backseat. 8-year-old Sophia sat quietly, her expression more guarded. She was old enough to remember the fights, the lawyers, the day their mother packed their bags and left. The girls wore matching white dresses that James's mother had bought them. Church dresses, she called them, though none of them had been to church in years. James thought they looked like angels. He'd taken a picture before they left his apartment, wanting to document this new beginning. The drive from Oak Park into downtown Chicago should have taken 40 minutes, but construction on the Kennedy Expressway had traffic crawling. James checked his watch nervously. Their reservation at the American Girl Cafe was at 11:30, and it was already 10:45. "Daddy." Grace's voice was small. "My tummy feels funny." James glanced back. His youngest daughter's face had taken on a grayish tinge. "Carsick, baby." Grace nodded miserably. "Just breathe, sweetie. Look out the window. We're almost there." But they weren't almost there. Traffic came to a complete standstill. James could see the Chicago skyline in the distance, taunting him with its proximity. 15 minutes passed. 20. Grace was looking worse. "Daddy, I think I'm gonna throw up," she whimpered. "No, no, no. Just hold on, Gracie." James's mind raced. This car was a rental. He couldn't afford a cleaning fee on top of everything else. His credit cards were maxed out from legal bills. He was living in a studio apartment and working double shifts at the hospital just to make child support payments. More than that, he couldn't let this day be ruined. Not this day. Not when he'd promised them magic. Traffic started moving again, crawling forward. James spotted a Walgreens on the corner of Division Street. Without thinking it through, he jerked the wheel right, cutting across 2 lanes to pull into the loading zone in front of the store. "Okay, girls, Daddy's going to run in and get Grace some medicine." He left the engine running, the AC on full blast against the unseasonable October heat. "Stay in the car. Keep the doors locked. Do not talk to anyone. I'll be right back. Can we come with you?" Sophia asked. "No, honey. Watch your sister. 2 minutes, I promise." James grabbed his wallet and jogged toward the store entrance, glancing back once to see Sophia helping Grace lean forward, rubbing her little sister's back. "Good girl," he thought. "Always taking care of everyone." The Walgreens was more crowded than he expected. Weekend shoppers filled the aisles. James found the children's nausea medicine quickly, Dramamine, the kind that worked fast, but the line at the register stretched back 6 people deep. He bounced on his heels, checking his watch. 3 minutes gone already. An elderly woman at the front of the line was paying with a checkbook, slowly writing out each letter while the cashier waited with visible impatience. 4 minutes. 5 minutes. "Come on," James muttered under his breath. When he finally reached the register, he practically threw his credit card at the cashier. "I'm in a hurry. My daughter's sick." The transaction seemed to take forever. 6 minutes. 7. James grabbed the bag and ran for the exit. The blue Toyota Camry was gone. James stopped so abruptly that a woman behind him nearly collided with his back. He stood frozen, staring at the empty space where his rental car had been parked. Where his daughters had been waiting. "No," he said aloud. Then louder. "No, no, no, no." He ran into the street, looking wildly in both directions. Traffic flowed normally. No blue Camry. No sign of his girls. A parking enforcement officer was writing a ticket 2 cars down. "My car!" James shouted, running toward her. "Someone took my car. My daughters were inside." The officer looked up, annoyed. "Sir, you can't park in a loading. You don't understand. My car was right there." He pointed at the empty space. Blue Toyota Camry. 2 little girls in the back. "Someone stole it while I was inside." The officer's expression changed instantly. She grabbed her radio. "Dispatch. This is Officer Chen. I need immediate backup at Walgreens, Division and State. Possible carjacking with children inside the vehicle." The next few minutes dissolved into chaos that James would later struggle to remember clearly. Police cars arrived, sirens wailing. Paramedics appeared, though no one was hurt. No one he could see, anyway. A detective took his statement, asking the same questions over and over while James's mind screamed that they were wasting time, that his daughters were getting further away with every second. "You left the keys in the ignition?" Detective Sarah Morrison asked, her pen hovering over her notepad. "Yes, but I told them to lock the doors. I was only supposed to be gone 2 minutes." "Did you see them lock the doors?" James closed his eyes, trying to remember. He'd been in such a hurry, so focused on getting the medicine, on fixing the problem. I don't know. I don't remember." "What time did you go inside?" "Around 10:47, I think." "And you came out at?" 10:54, maybe." The line was long. 7 minutes. He'd left his daughters alone in a running car for 7 minutes, and now they were gone. "We're issuing an Amber Alert," Detective Morrison said. "I need descriptions." "What were they wearing?" "White dresses. Both of them. Sophia has dark brown hair, brown eyes. She's 8, about 4'2", maybe 60 pounds. Grace is 6, blonde hair, blue eyes, 3'8", around 45 pounds. The details came automatically. He was a pediatric nurse, used to estimating children's stats. "Any distinguishing marks?" "Grace has a strawberry birthmark on her left shoulder. Sophia has a small scar on her chin from when she fell off a swing 2 years ago." Morrison wrote quickly. Around them, more officers were arriving, cordoning off the area, checking traffic cameras. Someone handed James a bottle of water that he didn't remember asking for. His phone rang. Catherine, his ex-wife. He stared at the screen, unable to make himself answer. How could he tell her? How could he say the words? The phone stopped ringing, then immediately started again. Morrison looked at him. "You should answer that." James pressed the button with a shaking hand. "Kate, where are my daughters?" Her voice was sharp with panic. "Your mother just called me. She said something about the police calling her, about the girls. James, what happened? His throat closed. Kate, I'm so sorry. Where are Sophia and Grace? Someone took them. Someone took the car. They were inside. The sound Catherine made wasn't quite a scream and wasn't quite a sob. It was something beyond either, something primitive and terrible. James heard a crash. She dropped the phone. Then her voice again, distant, shouting something he couldn't make out. A moment later, a man's voice came on the line. Derek, Catherine's boyfriend, the man who'd moved into James's house, who slept in James's bed, who saw his daughters more than he did. What the hell did you do? Derek demanded. I went inside for medicine. Grace was carsick. I was gone for 7 minutes. You left them alone, in a running car, in Chicago. I told them to lock the doors. They're 6 and 8 years old. Derek's voice rose to a shout. What the hell is wrong with you? Detective Morrison gently took the phone from James's hand. Sir, this is Detective Sarah Morrison, Chicago PD. We need the mother to come to the station to provide additional information. Can you bring her? Yes, the 18th District on Chicago Avenue. We're doing everything we can. She ended the call and handed the phone back to James. Your ex-wife is on her way. The Amber Alert went out at 11:13 a.m. James watched it appear on his phone screen, the official notification that his daughters were missing, possibly in danger, that he'd failed them in the most fundamental way possible. Amber Alert. 2 girls, ages 6 and 8, last seen in blue Toyota Camry, Illinois license plate HB 72940, taken from Walgreens at Division and State at approximately 10:50 a.m. Sophia Whitmore, age 8, brown hair, brown eyes, 4 feet 2, 60 pounds, white dress. Grace Whitmore, age 6, blonde hair, blue eyes, 3 feet 8 inches, 45 pounds, white dress. Call 911 if seen. His phone started ringing constantly after that. His mother, his sister, co-workers from the hospital. The news had spread instantly in the way that only tragedy can spread in the age of social media. James silenced the phone and handed it to Detective Morrison. I can't, he said simply. Catherine arrived at 11:47 a.m. She burst through the police station doors like a hurricane, Derek trailing behind her. Her eyes found James immediately. You bastard, she hissed, lunging toward him. Derek caught her around the waist, holding her back as she clawed at the air between them. You killed them. You killed our babies. Mrs. Whitmore, please. Detective Morrison stepped between them. We're doing everything we can to find your daughters. But I need you to calm down so we can work. Calm down. Catherine's laugh was edged with hysteria. He left them in a car. He left them alone and now they're gone and you want me to calm down. She collapsed into Derek's arms, her body racked with sobs. Over her head, Derek stared at James with undisguised hatred. Morrison led Catherine into an interview room, leaving James in the hallway with Derek and a uniformed officer. The 2 men didn't speak. What was there to say? At 12:17 p.m., an update came through. Traffic cameras had captured the Toyota Camry heading south on State Street at 10:52 a.m. The driver was male, early 30s, wearing a dark hoodie. The back seat appeared to have occupants, though the angle made it difficult to confirm details. They're alive, James whispered, latching onto that single piece of information. They're alive. Someone saw them. But as 1 hour became 2, then 3, the updates grew more sporadic and less encouraging. The Camry had been spotted heading toward the expressway. Then nothing. It had disappeared into the vast network of highways and side streets that surrounded Chicago. "It's been 3 hours," Catherine said at 2 p.m., her voice hoarse from crying. "Where are they? Why hasn't anyone found them?" Detective Morrison's expression was carefully neutral. "Chicago PD has every available unit looking. The FBI has been notified. The Amber Alert has been shared across 6 states. Someone will see something." But James could read the subtext in her words. Time was running out. With every hour that passed, the chances of finding the girls alive and unharmed decreased. Everyone in the room knew it, even if no one said it aloud. At 3:45 p.m., James's phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. He answered it immediately, desperately. "Mr. Whitmore." A woman's voice, official and careful. "This is Linda Chen from Child Protective Services. I need to speak with you about your daughters. Have you found them?" "No, sir. I'm calling because we've been notified of the circumstances surrounding their disappearance. I want you to know that regardless of the outcome, there will be an investigation into your fitness as a parent." James felt something inside him break. "Are you serious? My daughters are missing and you're threatening to take them away from me?" "Sir, you left 2 minor children unattended in a running vehicle. That constitutes child endangerment under Illinois law. When your daughters are recovered, the court will need to determine whether you should retain custody." "They're not even." James's voice cracked. "They're not even back yet and you're already taking them from me." Catherine had heard his side of the conversation. "Good," she said flatly. "You should never see them again. You should go to prison for what you've done." At 5:23 p.m., Detective Morrison's radio crackled to life. "Detective, we've got a possible location on the vehicle. Anonymous tip. Abandoned warehouse district off Cermak Road." Everyone in the station seemed to move at once. James found himself in the back of a police cruiser, Morrison driving, Catherine and Derek following in Derek's SUV. The sirens wailed as they raced south through the city. The warehouse district was a graveyard of abandoned industry, rusted buildings with broken windows, empty parking lots overgrown with weeds, the smell of decay and stagnant water. Police cars converged from multiple directions, officers taking positions around a particular building where the blue Camry sat parked, driver's door hanging open. "Stay in the vehicle," Morrison ordered James before joining the tactical team approaching the car. Through the cruiser's windshield, James watched as officers surrounded the Camry, weapons drawn. Morrison approached slowly, looking through the windows. She froze, then immediately grabbed her radio, calling for paramedics. James didn't remember opening the cruiser door. Didn't remember running across the parking lot. Didn't remember the officers trying to hold him back. He only remembered reaching the car and seeing inside. Sophia and Grace were in the backseat, still wearing their white dresses. They were holding hands. They weren't moving. "No," James heard himself say. "No, please, God, no." Morrison caught him before he could open the car door. "Mr. Whitmore, don't. Let the paramedics. Are they alive?" He was screaming now, he realized. "Are they alive?" A paramedic was already inside the car, checking for pulses. The seconds stretched into eternities. Then, "I've got a pulse on the older one. The younger one. Come on, baby, come on." They pulled Sophia out first. Her eyes fluttered open, and she immediately started crying. "Daddy, where's Gracie?" Grace was still unconscious when they lifted her from the car. The paramedics worked quickly, efficiently, checking vitals, starting an IV, fitting an oxygen mask over her small face. James watched from a distance, held back by police officers, as they loaded both his daughters into ambulances. "Grace isn't waking up," Sophia sobbed as they put her on a gurney. "We were so hot and thirsty, and then Grace just went to sleep and I couldn't wake her up." Heat stroke. The word rippled through the crowd of police and paramedics. The car had been left in the sun with the windows closed. On an 80-degree October day. For nearly 7 hours. Catherine pushed past everyone to reach Sophia's ambulance. "Baby, I'm here. Mommy's here. Where's Daddy?" Sophia asked, her voice small and confused. "I want Daddy." Catherine's face hardened. "Daddy's not coming, sweetheart." James tried to follow the ambulances, but Detective Morrison stopped him. "Mr. Whitmore, I need you to stay here. We have questions about the carjacking. My daughter is dying. Your ex-wife is with both girls. We need to understand what happened here." Morrison's expression was unreadable. "The car thief has been apprehended. He's being brought in now. But there are circumstances you need to be aware of. The carjacker was a 19-year-old addict named Tyler Moss. He'd seen the running car, keys in the ignition, and hadn't looked in the backseat before he drove away. When he'd realized there were children inside, he'd panicked, driving to the warehouse where he sometimes crashed. He'd told the girls he was taking them back to their father, but then he'd gotten high and passed out, leaving them locked in the hot car while he nodded off in the warehouse. He'd woken up 3 hours later to find police surrounding the building. He'd tried to run. They'd caught him anyway. He says he didn't mean to hurt them," Morrison told James. "Says he just wanted the car." "I don't care what he meant," James said numbly. "What's going to happen to Grace?" "I don't know, Mr. Whitmore. But right now, you need to think about what's going to happen to you." The criminal charges came fast. Child endangerment. Reckless endangerment. Contributing to the delinquency of a minor. The prosecutor seemed determined to make an example of him. "Your negligence nearly killed your daughters," Assistant State's Attorney Rachel Goldman told him at his arraignment. "You left 2 small children alone in a running car in one of the busiest parts of Chicago. The only reason we're not charging you with manslaughter is that Grace Whitmore is currently still alive." Barely. Grace had slipped into a coma from severe dehydration and heat stroke. She'd been in the ICU at Lurie Children's Hospital for 4 days. The doctors said the next 48 hours were critical. Sophia had been released after 1 night of observation. She had nightmares now, waking up screaming about being hot and thirsty and alone. Catherine had immediately filed for an emergency order of protection, barring James from any contact with either daughter. "Your Honor," Catherine's lawyer argued at the custody hearing, "Mr. Whitmore's actions demonstrate a pattern of negligence and poor judgment that puts these children at risk. He chose his own convenience over their safety, and the result was nearly fatal." James's court-appointed lawyer tried to argue that it had been a momentary lapse in judgment, that he was a devoted father who'd made a terrible mistake. But the judge's expression said everything. "Mr. Whitmore, I'm terminating your parental rights pending the resolution of the criminal case," Judge Patricia Hernandez said. "You will have no contact with Sophia or Grace Whitmore. If you come within 500 feet of either child, you will be arrested immediately." James stood in the courtroom, watching his entire life crumble, and couldn't find words to protest. What could he say? That he loved them. That he'd only been trying to help. That he'd never meant for any of this to happen. None of it mattered. Intent didn't matter. Love didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was that he'd left his daughters alone for 7 minutes, and those 7 minutes had destroyed everything. Grace woke up on day 6. She had permanent kidney damage and required dialysis 3 times a week. The doctors said she'd need a transplant eventually. Her brain had been deprived of oxygen long enough to cause mild cognitive impairment. Nothing devastating, but enough that she'd need special education services for the rest of her life. James learned all of this secondhand, from his lawyer, because he wasn't allowed to visit, wasn't allowed to call, wasn't allowed any contact whatsoever with his daughters. At his criminal trial, Tyler Moss testified that the car had been running with the keys in the ignition, doors unlocked. "I just saw an easy score, man," he said from the witness stand, his legs shaking with withdrawal tremors. "I didn't know there were kids in there until I was already driving." The jury found James guilty on all charges. Judge Hernandez sentenced him to 5 years in prison, eligible for parole after 3. "Mr. Whitmore," she said at sentencing, "I want you to understand something. Every parent makes mistakes. Every parent has moments of poor judgment. But your mistake nearly killed 2 children. Your 7 minutes of negligence resulted in permanent harm to your youngest daughter. This court cannot and will not excuse that." James listened to the sentence without emotion. He'd cried himself empty over the past 3 months. There were no tears left. "Before I remand you to custody," Judge Hernandez continued, "does the defendant wish to make a statement?" James stood slowly. In the gallery, he could see Catherine sitting with Derek, her hand in his. Sophia sat beside them, old beyond her 8 years. Grace wasn't there. She was still too sick to leave the hospital. "I just want to say," James began, his voice rough, "that I'm sorry. To my daughters, to their mother, to everyone. I made a choice that seemed reasonable at the time, and it turned out to be the worst choice of my life. I'll spend every day for the rest of my life wishing I could take it back." He looked at Sophia, who stared back at him with eyes that held no forgiveness. "I love you both. I always will. And I'm so sorry." The bailiff led him away in handcuffs. As he left the courtroom, James heard Sophia say to Catherine, "Why did Daddy hurt Gracie?" Catherine's response was quiet but clear. "Because he wasn't thinking about you girls, honey. He was only thinking about himself." 3 years later James was released on parole after serving 38 months. He walked out of Stateville Correctional Center into a world that had moved on without him. Catherine had married Derek. They'd moved to Wisconsin with the girls for a fresh start. Sophia was 11 now. Grace was 9. He'd missed birthdays, holidays, Sophia's first school dance, Grace's kidney transplant. He'd missed everything. His parole officer had rules. He couldn't leave Illinois without permission. He had to maintain employment. He couldn't be around children unsupervised. And he was permanently barred from contact with Sophia and Grace unless they initiated it themselves when they turned 18. 10 more years before Sophia could decide if she wanted to see him. 12 before Grace could. If they even wanted to by then. James found work washing dishes at a diner. He rented a studio apartment in a town where no one knew his story. But sometimes, on his days off, he'd drive to Chicago and park near that Walgreens on Division Street. He'd sit in his car, always with the windows down, engine off, keys in his pocket, and replay those 7 minutes over and over. 7 minutes that had seemed so harmless at the time. 7 minutes that had cost him his daughters, his freedom, his future. 7 minutes that had nearly cost Grace her life. On what would have been his first weekend custody visit in October 2022, exactly 3 years after that terrible day, James received an envelope in the mail. Inside was a drawing in crayon. A stick figure family. A man, a woman, 2 girls. The man was crossed out in angry black scribbles. At the bottom, in a child's careful handwriting, "We don't have a daddy anymore. You're not our family. Don't write to us." Sophia, James folded the drawing carefully and put it in his wallet. He carried it with him every day, a reminder of the price of 2 minutes. No, not 2 minutes. 7 minutes. 7 minutes that became 3 years that became forever.